The water hit her face, cold and deliberate. Jake Thornton stood over her with an empty bottle, grinning at his 30 recruits like he'd just won something. "There's your shower, Grandma. Now you won't stink up our gym." The recruits laughed. Rebecca didn't move, didn't blink, just stared up at him with eyes that had seen men die for less. "You done?" Her voice was quiet, deadly. "Yeah, She moved. 1 second Jake was standing. The next his face slammed into the mat, her knee crushing his spine, her whisper freezing his blood. "I've killed better men than you in 7 countries. Want to apologize, or should I show these boys what real combat looks like? Hit subscribe and comment your city. You won't believe where this goes next." Rebecca Morrison had been invisible for exactly 87 days. 87 days of emptying trash cans that smelled like energy drinks and testosterone. 87 days of mopping floors while former Rangers and Marines and SEALs walked past her like she was furniture. 87 days of playing the role she'd perfected over 20 years of deep cover operations. The harmless older woman nobody notices, nobody questions, nobody remembers. She was good at invisible. Invisible kept you alive. The Titan Defense Solutions headquarters in San Diego looked like every other private military contractor office, steel and glass, trying to look important security theater instead of actual security, and enough classified material lying around to make any real operator's teeth hurt. Becca had counted 17 OPSEC violations in her first week alone. These people had gotten comfortable. Comfortable got you killed. She pushed her cleaning cart down the 3rd-floor hallway, the wheels squeaking just enough to announce her presence without actually making anyone look up. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Somewhere down the hall, someone was arguing about weapon shipment schedules. She listened without appearing to listen, cataloged without appearing to catalog. Container ship, Port of Los Angeles. Thursday delivery. Manifests that didn't match the actual cargo. Her phone, a burner replaced weekly, sat in her pocket like a loaded weapon. She'd photograph the documents later after everyone went home, after the building settled into its nighttime routine. For now, she was just Becca the janitor. Becca who smiled and nodded and never made eye contact. Becca who didn't exist in any meaningful database. The gym was on the basement level, accessible through a service elevator that smelled like sweat and industrial cleaner. She could hear them before the doors opened. Male voices, aggressive and confident, the particular sound of men who'd seen combat and now spent their days teaching others what they'd learned. The elevator dinged. The doors slid open, and Jake Thornton looked right at her. Most people didn't. Most people's eyes just slid past registering cleaning lady and moving on. But Jake was different. Jake had that predator awareness, that constant scanning for threats and opportunities. He was demonstrating a takedown technique to a circle of recruits, new contractors, probably fresh from military service and hungry to prove themselves. Pressure here. Jake was saying his knee on a volunteer's back controls the whole body. Doesn't matter how big they are. Physics beats muscle every time. Becca moved along the wall, heading for the supply closet where the cleaning materials were stored. She kept her movements small, efficient, non-threatening. The recruits glanced at her and away, dismissed. Perfect. "Hey!" Jake's voice carried across the gym. Becca didn't stop, didn't acknowledge. Maybe he wasn't talking to her. "Hey, Grandma." The gym went quiet. That particular kind of quiet that happens when someone crosses a line and everyone knows it, but nobody's sure what comes next. Becca stopped, turned slowly. Met Jake's eyes with the bland, confused expression she'd perfected. "Me." "Yeah, you." Jake released his volunteer, stood up, rolled his shoulders. 28 years old and absolutely convinced of his own superiority. Becca had known 1,000 Jake Thorntons, had served with some of them, had buried a few. "You look like you could use some exercise." The recruits laughed. Not mean laughter yet, just nervous energy looking for an outlet. Becca smiled the way grandmothers smile, patient, tired, a little confused. "I'm just here to clean, sir." "Sir." Jake mimicked her tone, got another laugh. "Hear that? She called me sir. Like we're in the military or something." He walked closer, and Becca watched him with the part of her brain that never turned off the part that had kept her alive through 2 decades of operations that officially never happened. 6'2", maybe 220, moving with that ranger confidence. Strong, but not as strong as he thought. Fast, but not as fast as he'd need to be. "What's your name, Grandma?" "Rebecca, sir." "Rebecca." He drew it out, mocking. "Well, Rebecca, I'm running a combat training session here. Professional operators learning professional skills. You think you could maybe take your mop somewhere else? You're kind of killing the atmosphere." Becca nodded, started to turn. "Plus, no offense, but you kind of smell. Like old lady perfume or something. Maybe take a shower before you come down here next time." The laughter was louder now, meaner. The recruits feeding off Jake's energy, participating in the casual cruelty that men sometimes mistake for bonding. Becca stopped. Something in her posture changed just slightly. Just enough that if someone had been watching carefully, they might have noticed. But nobody was watching carefully. They were all watching Jake, waiting for the next joke, the next put down. "I apologize," she said quietly. "I'll finish up quickly." Quickly would be good. Jake turned back to his recruits. "Now where were we? Right control positions. The key is..." "Actually," Becca interrupted. Jake stopped, turned. His expression shifted from amused to irritated. "Excuse me?" "I said actually." Becca set down her mop very carefully, very deliberately. "You made a mistake in your demonstration. The control position you showed, it works on compliant opponents. But anyone with real training could reverse it in about 2 seconds." The gym went dead silent. Jake stared at her like she'd just spoken Mandarin. "What did you just say?" "Your technique. It's flawed. You're relying on strength instead of leverage. That's fine when you're bigger and stronger, but what happens when you're not?" One of the recruits snorted. "Lady, do you have any idea who you're talking to? Jake was a ranger. He's forgotten more about combat than you'll ever know." Becca smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "I'm sure he has." Jake's face flushed red. "You know what? You want to critique my technique. Let's see yours. Come here." "I don't think..." "Come, here." Becca walked forward slowly. Her hands stayed visible, relaxed. She moved like someone who'd spent a lifetime in gymnasiums and dojos and kill houses, but she moved like she was trying not to show it. Every step calculated, every micro-expression controlled. She stopped 3 feet from Jake. Looked up at him, she was 5'4" to his 6'2", and he towered over her like a mountain over a pebble. "Show me this reversal you're talking about," Jake said. His voice dripped contempt. "I'll go easy on you." "You shouldn't." "What? You shouldn't go easy on me. If this were real, if I were really a threat, I wouldn't give you the chance." Jake laughed, put his hand on her shoulder, condescending, patronizing. "Look, Rebecca, I don't want to hurt." She moved. Jake Thornton had fast reflexes, had been in firefights in Afghanistan and Iraq, had survived situations that killed better men. But he'd never fought anyone like Rebecca Morrison. His hand on her shoulder became her leverage point. She stepped inside his center of gravity, redirected his mass, used his own weight and momentum against him. Her foot swept his ankle, not hard, just precisely, and suddenly he was off balance, falling, unable to stop himself. He hit the mat face first. Hard enough to hurt, not hard enough to injure. Before he could process what happened, she had his wrist, had twisted it into a lock that sent lightning bolts of pain up his arm. "Pressure here," she said quietly, her voice utterly calm. "Controls the whole arm. The arm controls the shoulder. The shoulder controls the body. Size doesn't matter. Strength doesn't matter. Only leverage matters." The recruits stood, frozen mouths open, unable to process what they were seeing. Jake tried to push up, tried to muscle out of it. Becca applied 2 more pounds of pressure and he gasped, went still. "If you keep pushing," she continued in that same quiet voice, "I'll dislocate your elbow, then your shoulder. Then I'll put you unconscious using the carotid compression you people call a sleeper hold, but never actually do correctly. The whole thing takes 4 seconds. You'd never even get your other hand into position." "Get off me," Jake hissed. "Say please." "What?" "Say please. You wanted to teach your recruits about respect, about control, so show them. Say please." For 5 seconds, Jake said nothing. His face was purple with rage and humiliation. The recruits watched like they were witnessing a car accident. Finally, through clenched teeth, "Please." Becca released him immediately, stepped back, picked up her mop. Jake scrambled to his feet, breathing hard, his wrist already starting to swell. You attacked me. You asked me to demonstrate a technique. I demonstrated. You could have broken my arm." "If I'd wanted to break your arm," Becca said calmly, "it would be broken. I wanted to teach you something." "Did you learn?" Jake's fists clenched. For a moment, Becca thought he might actually take a swing at her. Part of her, the part that had been dormant for 87 days, almost hoped he would. But one of the recruits spoke up. "Jake, man, are you okay?" The spell broke. Jake looked around at his recruits, saw them looking at him differently now, saw the respect he'd built evaporating like morning dew. "This isn't over," he said to Becca. "It never is," she replied, and went back to mopping. Jake stormed out. The recruits followed, whispering, glancing back at the tiny gray-haired woman pushing a mop bucket like nothing had happened. Becca waited until they were gone. Then she allowed herself exactly 5 seconds of reaction. A deep breath, a slight tremor in her hands, the adrenaline working its way out of her system. 87 days of invisible blown in 30 seconds. Her phone buzzed. Encrypted message from Admiral Patricia Chen, her handler at Naval Special Warfare Command. Status. Becca typed back. Compromised. Timeline accelerated. Proceeding to Phase 2. Negative. Extract and reassess. Becca stared at the message. Thought about the weapons shipment scheduled for Thursday. Thought about the SEAL team that would walk into an ambush in Yemen if she didn't stop it. Thought about the men who'd trusted her with their lives when she wore the trident. She typed, "Respectfully, ma'am, no. Mission continues." She deleted the message thread, pulled the SIM card, snapped it in half. Upstairs in his office, Marcus Cade was reviewing security footage when his assistant knocked. "Sir Jake Thornton is here. Says it's urgent." Cade looked up from the screen. He was 56, gray hair, cut military short, 3 combat tours and a Marine colonel's pension behind him. Now he ran operations for Titan Defense and made more in a month than he'd made in a year serving his country. "Send him in." Jake entered, still rubbing his wrist. "We have a problem." "I gathered. I saw the gym footage." Cade leaned back in his chair. "You got taken down by a janitor." "She's not a janitor. I don't know what she is, but she's not a janitor." "She's 60 years old." 57. And age doesn't mean shit when someone moves like that. Jake paced, agitated. "I've trained with Rangers SEALs Delta. That woman had technique I've never seen. Professional level technique. And the way she controlled me, it wasn't lucky. It was practiced. Muscle memory from thousands of repetitions." Cade pulled up Rebecca Morrison's personnel file on his computer, scanned it, frowned. "What?" Jake asked. "Her file is thin, very thin. Name, Social Security, hire date. That's it. No employment history, no references. Background check shows." He stopped. "Shows what?" "Nothing. It shows nothing. No credit history, no rental history, no digital footprint at all before she applied here 3 months ago." "That's not possible. Everyone has a digital footprint." "Everyone except people who don't want to be found." Cade opened another window, started typing. "Or people whose footprints have been deliberately erased." "You think she's a plant, corporate espionage?" "I think," Cade said slowly, "that we need to find out who Rebecca Morrison really is. And we need to do it quietly." He picked up his phone, dialed an internal number. "Security, I need you to pull all footage from the past 3 months. Every camera. Focus on the janitorial staff, specifically Rebecca Morrison. I want to know everywhere she's been, everything she's touched, everyone she's talked to." He hung up, looked at Jake. "And you stay away from her. Don't confront her again. Don't even look at her. If she's what I think she is, she's a lot more dangerous than she appears." "What do you think she is?" Cade didn't answer. He was staring at the frozen image on his screen. Rebecca Morrison mid-technique. Her body position perfect, her face utterly calm. He'd seen that look before. In Fallujah, on the face of a Marine sniper who'd just dropped 3 insurgents in 4 seconds. In Kabul, on a SEAL who'd single-handedly cleared a building full of Taliban fighters. The look of someone who'd killed before and wouldn't hesitate to kill again. Becca finished mopping the gym floor an hour later. She moved methodically, cleaning every corner, erasing every trace of the confrontation. Her mind was already 3 moves ahead, running scenarios, calculating probabilities. Jake would report the incident. His supervisor would investigate. They'd pull her file, find it suspiciously empty, start asking questions. Security would review footage, see her access patterns. Notice she'd been in areas she shouldn't have been. The timeline had just collapsed from weeks to days, maybe hours. She pushed the cart to the service elevator, rode up to the 3rd floor. The offices were emptying out, 5:30 p.m., the day shift heading home, the night shift coming in. She exchanged nods with the security guard, got a distracted wave. Marcus Cade's office was at the end of the hall. Corner office, reinforced door, keycard access. She'd been inside twice before, late at night when the building was mostly empty. She'd photographed documents, copied hard drives, planted listening devices that fed back to Admiral Chen's intelligence team. Tonight she needed to go back, one more time, because if Cade was suspicious, he'd move the evidence, change passwords, tighten security. It was now or never. She waited until 9 p.m. The night shift was smaller. 2 security guards, a handful of contractors working late, and the cleaning crew. She'd timed her routes carefully over the past 3 months, knew exactly when each camera cycled, where the blind spots were, how long she had. Cade's office door required a key card. She had one cloned from the security supervisor's card 3 weeks ago. She swiped it, heard the lock disengage, slipped inside. The office was dark, except for the glow of standby LEDs on computer equipment. Becca pulled out a thumb drive, military-grade encrypted, capable of cloning an entire hard drive in under 2 minutes. She sat at Cade's desk, inserted the drive, started the transfer, and saw the file open on his screen. The file he'd been reviewing when she interrupted his evening. Her file. Rebecca Morrison. Except it wasn't just her employment record anymore. Cade had added notes, observations, security camera screenshots showing her in restricted areas, timestamps of after-hours access, a highlighted section that made her blood run cold. Recommend immediate termination and detention. Possible intelligence operative. Extreme caution advised. Subject has advanced combat training identity. Likely false potential threat to ongoing operations. Below that, a second note in different handwriting. Vance arriving Thursday to personally handle situation. Maintain surveillance until then. Do not engage. Vance. Robert Vance. Former CIA, now freelance. The man who'd sold SEAL team locations to the highest bidder. The man Admiral Chen had been hunting for 18 months. The man who would recognize Becca the second he saw her. Because 23 years ago, in a safe house in Beirut, Vance had tried to kill her. She'd been Lieutenant Morrison then, running deep cover for naval intelligence. Vance had been her handler, right up until she'd discovered he was selling intelligence to Hezbollah. She'd put 2 bullets in him, one in the shoulder, one in the gut, left him for the cleanup team, and disappeared into her legend. Apparently, he'd survived. Apparently, he remembered. The thumb drive beeped, transfer complete. Becca pulled it out, pocketed. It started to stand. The office door opened. Jake Thornton stood in the doorway, his hand on his sidearm, his face hard. I knew you'd come back here. Becca's hands stayed visible. This isn't what it looks like. Really? Because it looks like you're stealing classified information from my boss's computer. I'm trying to save lives. Whose lives? American soldiers. SEALs who are going to walk into an ambush in Yemen because your boss is selling their locations to terrorists. Jake's hand didn't move from his weapon. That's a serious accusation. Look at his computer. See for yourself. I think I'll just call security instead. If you call security, men die. Good men. Men with families with kids waiting for them to come home. You want that on your conscience? Jake hesitated. It was only a second, but it was enough. Becca moved. Not toward him, that would trigger his training, make him draw. Instead, she moved sideways, putting the desk between them, putting herself in position to either escape or engage depending on what he did next. "I'm not your enemy," she said. "Then why are you breaking into offices? Why is your entire identity fake?" "Because my real identity would get people killed. Because I'm trying to stop a conspiracy that goes deeper than you can imagine. Because sometimes the people who look like heroes are actually villains, and the people who look like janitors are actually trying to save the world." That's a hell of a story. It's the truth. And you know it is. Because you've been suspicious of Cade for months. You've seen things that don't add up. Shipments that disappear. Money moving through accounts that shouldn't exist. You've noticed. You just didn't know what to do about it. Jake's jaw tightened. "How do you know that?" "Because I've been watching. Same as you. The difference is, I know what I'm looking at." She pulled out the thumb drive. "This drive has evidence. Shipping manifests, financial records, communication logs. Everything you need to prove Cade is trafficking weapons to terrorist organizations. Everything you need to stop him." "Why should I believe you?" "Because," Becca said quietly, "if I wanted to hurt you, you'd already be hurt. I could have broken your arm in the gym, could have put you down permanently, but I didn't. Because you're not my enemy. You're actually one of the good guys. You just work for bad people." Jake stared at her. The seconds stretched out. Finally, he took his hand off his weapon. "If you're lying to me, I'm not. I will hunt you down and make you regret it." "Fair enough." He stepped aside. Becca walked past him, paused at the door. "Thursday," she said. "Cade's contact arrives Thursday. A man named Robert Vance, former CIA. Now he sells classified intelligence. He's the key to everything. Help me stop him and we save lives. Let him operate and men die." "What do you need?" "Access to Cade's schedule, security protocols. Anything that tells me where Vance will be and when." Jake pulled out his phone. "I can get into the operations calendar. Give me your number." "I don't have a number, not one I can give you." "Then how?" "Tomorrow, 6 a.m., coffee shop 2 blocks from here, the one with the broken neon sign. Come alone. Don't tell anyone. Not your friends, not your girlfriend, not anyone you trust. Because right now, I'm the only person you can trust." She left before he could respond. Outside, the San Diego night was cool and clear. Becca walked 6 blocks, switching directions, randomly checking for tails. When she was certain she was clean, she ducked into an alley, pulled out a different phone. This one specially modified, untraceable. She dialed a number she'd memorized years ago. Admiral Patricia Chen answered on the first ring. "I told you to extract. Vance is here, or will be Thursday." Silence. Then, "Are you certain?" "Cade's files. He's coming to personally handle the situation, which means he knows about me, which means he remembers Beirut. Then you need to get out, now, tonight. I'll send a team." "No teams. This is personal between Vance and me. And if we bring in official channels, he'll disappear. We'll lose him again." Rebecca. 23 years, Admiral. We've been hunting him for 23 years. He's sold out how many operations gotten? How many operators killed? This is our chance. Maybe our only chance. Chen's voice was tight. "What's your plan?" "I have one of Cade's contractors. Young, idealistic, good instincts. He can get me access I don't have. Together we can get close enough to Vance to take him down. Or he'll get you killed. Maybe. But the Yemen team deploys in 4 days. If we don't stop this now, they walk into an ambush. You've seen the intelligence. You know what happens." Another silence. Becca could hear Chen breathing, could imagine her sitting in her Pentagon office weighing options, calculating risks. 72 hours, Chen said finally. "You have 72 hours to deliver Vance. After that, I'm sending in the Marines whether you like it or not." "Understood." "And Rebecca, don't die. That's an order." "I'll do my best, ma'am." She hung up, looked at the phone in her hand, thought about Jake Thornton, and whether he'd show up tomorrow or call the police instead. Thought about Robert Vance and the Beirut safe house and the moment she'd realized her handler was trying to kill her. Thought about the SEAL team in Yemen who had no idea they were walking into a trap. 72 hours. She'd worked with less. Becca dropped the phone in a dumpster, walked 3 more blocks, caught a bus heading east. She sat in the back watching the city slide past, looking like every other tired woman heading home after a long shift. Looking invisible, looking harmless, looking exactly like what she needed to look like. The bus stopped at an intersection. Through the window, she saw a recruiting poster, Navy SEALs in tactical gear, the caption reading, "The only easy day was yesterday." She touched the glass, whispered to ghosts only she could see, "Hold on, I'm coming." The bus pulled away, carrying her into the night, into the next phase of an operation that had just become very, very personal. Somewhere in the darkness, Robert Vance was boarding a plane to San Diego. In his carry-on bag was a file marked Morrison Rebecca, deceased. He was about to learn that reports of her death had been greatly exaggerated, and by the time he figured that out, it would already be too late. The coffee shop smelled like burned espresso and broken dreams. Becca sat in the corner booth at 5:47 a.m., her back to the wall, eyes on both entrances. The waitress had stopped asking if she wanted a refill after the 3rd cup. Now she just left the pot on the table and moved on to customers who tipped better. Jake Thornton walked in at 6:02, 2 minutes late, scanning the room with the careful paranoia of someone who'd just realized he might be in over his head. He spotted Becca, hesitated, then walked over and slid into the booth across from her. "You came," Becca said. "I almost didn't." Jake's eyes were bloodshot, like he hadn't slept. "Spent all night trying to convince myself you were lying. Trying to find a reason why my boss would be dirty. Did you find one? No, which is the problem." He pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, turned the screen toward her. "I accessed Cade's calendar like you asked. Thursday, 2 p.m., private meeting at the Oceanic Club. Guest listed as R. Vance Consultant." Becca memorized the details, nodded. "What else?" "Security detail. 4 men, all former special forces. Armed. They're treating this meeting like a presidential visit. Because Vance is paranoid. He's been burned before. By you." Becca sipped her coffee, didn't answer directly. "What did you find in Cade's files after I left?" Jake's jaw tightened. "Shipping manifests that don't match actual deliveries. Weapons going to ports that don't exist on any official map. Financial transfers to shell companies in Dubai, Singapore, the Caymans. And..." He stopped. "And what?" "Communications logs. Encrypted messages between Cade and someone with the call sign Raven. They're discussing SEAL team movements. Specific teams, specific operations. One message from 2 weeks ago mentions Yemen." Becca's hands went still on her coffee cup. "What exactly did it say?" "Package delivered Yemen insertion point. Coordinates confirmed. Payment upon verification." That was it. No context. But I know what a SEAL insertion point is. I know what payment upon verification means. Jake's voice dropped. "Those are kill confirmations. Someone selling SEAL locations and getting paid when they die." "Not someone, Vance. He's been doing it for years." "How do you know?" "Because I've been hunting him for 23 years. Because he tried to kill me in Beirut when I got too close to his operation. Because every time we think we've got him, he disappears like smoke." Jake leaned forward. "Who are you? Really?" "Someone who used to wear a different uniform. Someone who's very good at staying dead." "That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. What matters is stopping Vance before that SEAL team in Yemen gets hit. You keep saying that like you know for sure there's going to be an ambush. Because there is. The pattern is consistent. Vance sells the insertion coordinates, enemy forces set up an ambush. Our people walk into a kill zone. It's happened 4 times in the last 18 months. 12 operators dead, 3 more critically wounded. And every single time the intelligence leak traced back to private contractors with access to operational planning." Jake's face had gone pale. 12 men. 12 that we know about. Could be more. Vance is careful. He spaces them out, makes them look like bad luck or compromised locals. But I've seen the pattern. I've connected the dots. And Cade is his latest distribution point. Why haven't you gone to the authorities, FBI, military investigators, someone official? Becca's laugh was bitter. You think we haven't tried? Vance has connections everywhere. Last time we got close, 2 FBI agents investigating him died in a car accident that wasn't an accident. The time before that, a naval intelligence officer committed suicide, except he didn't own a gun, and the ballistics didn't match. Vance protects himself by making sure anyone who gets too close ends up in a body bag. So what's your plan? Walk into the Oceanic Club and arrest him yourself. Not arrest. I'm not law enforcement. Jake stared at her. What are you then? I'm the person they send when arrest isn't an option. The waitress appeared with the coffee pot. Both of them went silent until she refilled their cups and wandered away. When she was out of earshot, Jake spoke again, his voice tight. You're talking about killing him. I'm talking about stopping him, however that needs to happen. That's murder. That's war. And Vance declared it first. Becca leaned across the table. You want to play by rules, fine. Call the FBI. File a report. Watch Vance disappear and resurface in 6 months under a new name, selling new intelligence, getting more operators killed. Or you can help me end this. Today. Thursday. While we know where he'll be and when. Jake's hands were shaking. He gripped his coffee cup to hide it. I'm not a killer. Yes, you are. You were a ranger. You've killed enemy combatants. This is the same thing, just without a uniform and a flag to hide behind. It's not the same. You're right. It's more important, because the men Vance kills are ours, Americans, operators who trusted the system to protect them, and the system failed. So people like me step in. Jake stood up abruptly. I need to think about this. You have until Thursday. After that, I'm going in alone. That's suicide. 4-man security detail, unknown weapons, a target who's survived multiple assassination attempts. You'll be dead before you get within 50 feet of him. Maybe, but at least I'll have tried. Becca pulled out a burner phone, slid it across the table. That phone is clean, untraceable. If you decide to help, text me by Wednesday midnight. If I don't hear from you, I'll assume you made the smart choice and walked away. Jake picked up the phone, stared at it like it might explode. And if I help you, if we actually pull this off, then 12 men get to keep being a number instead of becoming 13, and the SEAL team in Yemen comes home to their families. What happens to us? We disappear. New identities, new lives. I've done it before. I can do it again. That's not a life. That's running. Welcome to my world. Becca stood, dropped cash on the table for the coffee. Wednesday midnight. Your decision. She walked out into the gray San Diego dawn, leaving Jake sitting alone with a burner phone and a choice that would define the rest of his life. Becca spent Tuesday conducting reconnaissance. The Oceanic Club sat on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, all glass and steel and old money, trying to look sophisticated. Private membership, extensive security, the kind of place where billionaires and arms dealers rubbed elbows and pretended they were different species. She walked the perimeter 3 times, memorizing camera positions, guard rotations, emergency exits. The building had been designed to keep people out, which meant it had also been designed with weaknesses for people who knew how to look. The ocean side was the vulnerable point. Sheer cliff face, 100-foot drop to the rocks below. No cameras because nobody expected an approach from that direction. Nobody sane anyway. Becca had made crazier infiltrations. That night, she rented a wetsuit and diving gear from a shop in La Jolla. The clerk barely looked at her fake ID, more interested in his phone than his customers. She paid cash, loaded the gear into a stolen Honda that would be returned before anyone noticed it was missing, and drove to a public beach access point 2 miles from the Oceanic Club. The Pacific in November was cold enough to kill someone unprepared. Becca had done water insertions and worse. She suited up, checked her waterproof bag rope climbing gear lockpicks, a pistol in a sealed container, and waded into the surf. The swim took 40 minutes. The current fought her. The cold worked its way through the wetsuit, and twice she had to dive deep to avoid fishing boats. But she'd done this hundreds of times in oceans and rivers and swamps across 3 continents. Muscle memory took over and her mind went quiet. She surfaced at the base of the cliff, below the Oceanic Club. The rocks were slick with algae and barnacles. The waves crashed with enough force to pulverize bone. She timed the swells, found her opening, lunged for a handhold. The climb was worse than the swim. 60 feet of vertical rock face, minimal handholds, the ocean trying to rip her off the wall every time a wave hit. Her fingers cramped. Her shoulders screamed. She ignored everything except the next grip, the next movement, the next breath. She reached the top at 11:47 p.m., pulled herself over the edge into the manicured garden behind the club, lay flat in the wet grass, breathing hard, listening for guards. Nothing. Just the ocean and the wind and the distant sound of traffic. She stripped off the wetsuit, stashed it with the diving gear behind a sculpture that probably cost more than most people's houses. Underneath, she wore black tactical clothing, soft-soled shoes, nothing reflective. She pulled the pistol from the waterproof bag, a Sig Sauer P226, her preferred weapon for 20 years, checked the magazine chambered around. The back entrance was secured with a keycard reader and a numeric pad. Becca pulled out a small electronic device, no bigger than a credit card, pressed it against the reader. It cycled through frequencies, searching for the right signal. 30 seconds later, the lock clicked open. Inside the club was dark except for emergency lighting. She moved through hallways that smelled like cigar smoke and expensive cologne. Her footsteps silent on marble floors. She found the main conference room on the 2nd floor, the space where Cade's calendar said the meeting would happen. She spent 20 minutes cataloging the room. Windows, exits, sightlines, cover positions. She placed a micro camera in the corner smoke detector, another in the air vent, a third behind a painting of ships at sea. Audio bugs in the conference table, under the chairs inside the credenza. When she was done, she'd have eyes and ears on everything that happened in this room. She'd know Vance's security setup, his habits, his vulnerabilities. And then, she'd know how to kill him. She was almost to the exit when she heard voices in the hallway. Male professional moving with purpose. Security patrol off schedule. Becca slipped into a side office, pressed herself against the wall behind the door. The voices grew louder, then stopped right outside. Thought I saw something on the monitor. 2nd floor west wing. Probably just a reflection. These windows catch light weird at night. I'm telling you, something moved. Fine. Check it out. I'll cover the stairs. Footsteps approaching. Becca's hand moved to her pistol. She didn't want to kill a security guard doing his job, but she'd do what was necessary. The door swung open. A beam of light swept the room. The guard stepped inside, one hand on his weapon, the other holding a flashlight. Becca waited until he was 2 steps past her position. Then she moved. Her arm wrapped around his throat in a perfect rear-naked choke, cutting off blood flow to his brain without crushing his windpipe. He struggled for exactly 4 seconds before going limp. She lowered him to the floor, checked his pulse strong and steady, then zip-tied his hands and feet, gagged him with his own tie. He'd wake up with a headache and a story nobody would believe. The second guard's voice crackled over the first guard's radio. Davis, you find anything? Becca picked up the radio, keyed the mic, pitched her voice low and masculine. Negative. Just shadows. I'm heading back. Copy that. She left through the same window she'd entered, rappelled down the cliff face using rope from her bag, hit the water and swam back to the beach. By 2 a.m., she was back in her apartment reviewing the camera feeds on an encrypted laptop. The technology worked perfectly. 3 angles on the conference room, crystal clear audio. Now she just had to wait for Thursday. Wednesday morning. Jake Thornton sat in his apartment staring at the burner phone. He'd been staring at it for 6 hours ever since his shift ended. The phone sat on his coffee table like a loaded weapon demanding a decision he wasn't ready to make. His real phone rang. His mother calling from Phoenix. He let it go to voicemail. She'd want to know how work was going, whether he'd met anyone nice when he was coming home for Christmas. Normal questions from a normal life. He wasn't living a normal life anymore. His laptop was open next to him, showing the files he'd copied from Cade's computer. He'd spent all day Tuesday verifying Rebecca's claims, cross-referencing shipping manifests with actual deliveries, tracing the shell companies, matching dates with news reports of military casualties. She'd been telling the truth about everything. Marcus Cade was trafficking weapons to terrorist organizations. The money trail was complex but visible once you knew where to look. Payments coming in from buyers in Syria, Libya, Yemen. Weapons going out through ports that didn't appear on any official documentation, and the intelligence leaks. Jake had found those too. Encrypted communications between Cade and Vance trading information about SEAL team movements. Not just Yemen, there were references to operations in Somalia, Iraq, Afghanistan. Dozens of operations, potentially hundreds of operators at risk. The 12 men Rebecca mentioned were real. Jake found their names in casualty reports matched the dates with Vance's communications. Every single one had died in an ambush that shouldn't have been possible in locations the enemy shouldn't have known about. Unless someone told them. Jake's phone buzzed. Text message from one of his buddies, another instructor at Titan. Drinks tonight need to blow off steam. He didn't respond. How could he? How could he sit in a bar making small talk when he knew what he knew? The burner phone sat there waiting. He picked it up at 11:47 p.m., stared at the blank screen. His thumbs hovered over the keypad. At 11:59, he typed, "I'm in. What's the plan?" He hit send before he could change his mind. The response came 30 seconds later. "Tomorrow 1 p.m., same coffee shop. Come ready to work. No second thoughts. No backing out. Once we start, we finish." Jake typed back, "Understood." He set the phone down, walked to his bedroom, opened the closet safe where he kept his personal weapons. His service pistol from his Ranger days, cleaned and maintained even though he hadn't fired it in 2 years. A tactical knife his team leader had given him when he left active duty. Body armor, though it was old, and probably wouldn't stop modern rifle rounds. He laid everything out on his bed, checking each item with the methodical precision his training had instilled. Weapons gear mindset. The 3 things that kept you alive in combat. Except this wasn't combat. This was something else. Something darker. He tried to sleep, but couldn't. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering if he'd just signed his own death warrant or done the first truly important thing in his life. At 6 a.m. Thursday morning, he got his answer. The coffee shop was busier this time. The morning crowd getting their caffeine fix before work. Rebecca sat in the same corner booth, but this time she wasn't wearing her janitor uniform. Black jeans, dark jacket, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She looked different, harder, like the mask had dropped and he was finally seeing who she really was. Jake slid into the booth. "I've been thinking, don't. Thinking gets you killed. We're past thinking." She slid a folder across the table. "Everything you need to know about today's operation. Memorize it, then burn it." He opened the folder. Inside were floor plans of the Oceanic Club, photographs of Robert Vance, detailed timelines, security protocols, weapons specifications. "How did you get all this?" "I broke in Tuesday night, planted cameras and audio. I've been watching the security team's patterns for the last 36 hours. They rotate every 4 hours, 3 guards on the floor, at all times 1 on monitor duty. They're professional, but predictable." And Vance arrives at 1:45 p.m. His personal security is better former Delta, probably. 2 men with him at all times, 1 driver who stays with the vehicle. Cade's security won't mix with Vance's security. Professional courtesy among criminals. Jake studied the photographs. Vance was 61, gray hair, expensive suit. The kind of bland face that disappeared in a crowd. Nothing about him suggested international arms dealer. He looked like someone's accountant. "What's our approach?" "Oceanside. Same way I went in Tuesday. We infiltrate during the meeting when all the security is focused on the conference room. We have a 30-minute window between when Vance arrives and when the meeting ends." 30 minutes to do what? Rebecca's eyes were cold. To end him. And to get the evidence that proves Cade's involvement. We need both. Vance dead stops the immediate threat. The evidence stops the next Vance from taking his place. You're talking about assassination. I'm talking about removing a traitor who's killed American soldiers for profit. Call it whatever helps you sleep at night. Jake closed the folder. I've never killed anyone who wasn't shooting at me first. Then today you'll learn something new. Rebecca stood. We leave in 3 hours. Wear dark clothes, bring your weapon, and make peace with whatever God you believe in. Because there's no coming back from this. She walked out, leaving Jake alone with the folder and the weight of what he'd agreed to do. At noon, they met at a public beach access point south of the Oceanic Club. Rebecca had the same gear she'd used Tuesday: wetsuits, climbing equipment, weapons, and waterproof containers. Jake looked at the cliff face rising from the ocean and felt his stomach drop. "You've done water insertions before, right?" Rebecca asked. "In training, 10 years ago. It's like riding a bike, except if you fall off, you die. That's not comforting." "It's not supposed to be." She handed him a wetsuit. "Get changed. We enter the water at 12:30. That gives us time to swim, climb, infiltrate, and be in position before Vance arrives." They suited up in silence. Jake's hands were shaking, and he hated himself for it. He'd been in firefights in Afghanistan, had cleared buildings full of insurgents, had done things that earned him a chest full of medals. But this felt different. This felt wrong. Rebecca noticed his hands. Second thoughts. About 1,000 of them. "Good. That means you're not stupid." She checked her gear one final time. Fear keeps you sharp. It's when you stop being afraid that you make mistakes. "You afraid?" She looked at him with those cold blue eyes. "Terrified. I've been terrified for 23 years, but I do the job anyway. Because someone has to." They entered the water at exactly 12:30 p.m. The swim was brutal, the current stronger than Jake expected, the cold cutting through the wetsuit like knives. Halfway there, his legs cramped and he started to fall behind. Rebecca circled back, grabbed his arm, pulled him forward. "Keep moving. You stop, you die." He kept moving. The climb was worse. His fingers couldn't find purchase on the wet rock. Twice he nearly fell, caught himself at the last second, his heart hammering so hard he thought it would burst. Rebecca climbed like a spider, smooth and effortless, 20 years of experience, making it look easy. They reached the top at 1:32 p.m., 13 minutes before Vance's arrival. Rebecca stripped off her wetsuit, revealed the tactical gear underneath. She assembled her weapon with practiced efficiency, screwed on a suppressor, chambered around. Jake did the same, his movements clumsy compared to hers. They moved through the garden, reached the same window Rebecca had used before. She picked the lock in 8 seconds, and they slipped inside. The hallway was empty. They moved toward the conference room, staying low, staying quiet. Rebecca's hand signals were clear. She'd take point. He'd cover. Standard room clearing procedures from a lifetime ago. They reached the conference room door at 1:44 p.m. Through Rebecca's micro cameras, they'd watched Cade arrive 10 minutes ago. He sat alone in the conference room, looking nervous, checking his watch every 30 seconds. At 1:46, voices in the main hallway, multiple people approaching. Rebecca pulled Jake into a side office, cracked the door open 2 inches. Robert Vance walked past, flanked by 2 bodyguards, exactly like Rebecca had described. Former Delta, moving with that relaxed awareness that marked true professionals. Vance himself looked calm, confident, like he owned the building. Behind them came 2 more men, Cade's security keeping their distance. The conference room door closed. Through the micro cameras, Rebecca and Jake watched Vance greet Cade with a handshake and a smile. "Marcus, good to see you." "Mr. Vance, thank you for coming. You said we had a problem. I solve problems. That's what you pay me for." Vance settled into a chair, his bodyguards positioning themselves at the door. "Tell me about this janitor." Cade pulled out a file. Rebecca's file. "Rebecca Morrison. Started 3 months ago. Background check came back clean, but when we dug deeper, nothing made sense. No employment history, no digital footprint, combat training. That's way beyond anything a civilian should have." Vance opened the file, studied Rebecca's personnel photo. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. When was this photo taken? 3 months ago, when she was hired. Vance pulled out his phone, swiped through images, found one, turned the screen toward Cade. Is this the same woman? The photo showed a much younger Rebecca, 23, maybe 24, in navy fatigues. No smile eyes that had already seen too much. Cade squinted at it. "Could be. Hard to tell with the age difference. It's her. Vance's voice had gone flat. Lieutenant Rebecca Morrison, Naval Intelligence, supposedly died in Beirut 23 years ago. Except she didn't die. She went underground. In the side office, Jake looked at Rebecca. Her face was stone, but her hand on her weapon had tightened. Cade was confused. I don't understand. Why would Naval Intelligence send someone undercover to my company? Because someone told them what you're doing. Someone told them about the weapons trafficking, the intelligence leaking all of it. Vance stood paced to the window. She's here to kill me, Marcus. That's what she does. That's what she's always done. That's impossible. She's a janitor, a 60-year-old woman. She's a Navy SEAL. Vance turned back to Cade. One of the first female SEALs, part of a classified program that officially never existed. I trained her myself back when I was still CIA. She was one of our best assets, until she turned on me in Beirut. Why would she turn on you? Because I was doing exactly what you're doing now, selling information, making money. She found out, tried to stop me. I tried to kill her first. Obviously, I failed. Vance checked his watch. She's here, right now, in this building. I can feel it. His bodyguards tensed hands, moving to their weapons. Cade looked panicked. That's not possible. We have security. Your security is nothing to her. She's infiltrated terror cells, military compounds, presidential palaces. She's killed warlords and cartel bosses and people you've never heard of because they died before the world knew they existed. Vance pulled his own weapon, a custom 1911. Lock this building down, now. Full security sweep. She's here, and if we don't find her first, we're all dead. In the side office, Rebecca turned to Jake and whispered one word, run. But it was already too late. The alarm started screaming and every door in the building automatically locked. They were trapped. The alarm scream turned the Oceanic Club into a cage. Rebecca's mind shifted into combat mode, the cold clarity that had kept her alive through 23 years of operations that officially never happened. She grabbed Jake's arm, pulled him close enough to whisper directly in his ear over the noise. Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. No hesitation, no questions. We're locked in. I know. Move. She led him deeper into the office, away from the hallway where boots were already thundering toward their position. The window overlooked the cliff face, a 100-foot drop to rocks that would kill them instantly. Jake saw her looking at it and his face went white. You can't be serious. Windows are reinforced, can't break them quietly. Rebecca was already moving to the air vent, pulling out her knife, unscrewing the cover. This connects to the main HVAC system, runs through the entire building. We can't fit through there. You'd be surprised what you can fit through when someone's trying to kill you. She pulled the cover off, tested the metal interior with her hand. Solid enough. You first. Move fast. Stay quiet. I'll be right behind you. Jake stared at the vent opening, maybe 18 inches square. I haven't crawled through ducts since Ranger training. Then this'll be nostalgic. Go. He went, pulled himself up, squeezed through the opening with effort that made his ribs creak. Rebecca followed, moving with the fluidity that came from doing this exact thing in Baghdad, Karachi, Moscow places, where getting caught meant dying slow. Inside the duct, the alarm was muffled but still present, a constant pulse that matched her heartbeat. Jake was crawling ahead of her, his breathing too loud, panic making him clumsy. Slow down, she whispered. Control your breathing. You're making noise. They're going to find us. Not if you stay calm. Fear makes you stupid. You can't afford stupid right now. They crawled for 30 seconds that felt like 30 minutes. The duct branched left and right. Rebecca touched Jake's leg, guided him left. She'd memorized the building's HVAC layout. Tuesday night knew exactly where this path led. Behind them, voices echoed through the vents. Check every office. She's here somewhere. Mr. Vance wants her alive. Says he's got questions before she dies. Good luck with that. Woman's a ghost. She'll kill half of us before we even see her. The voices faded. Rebecca and Jake kept moving, the metal duct creaking under their weight. They reached another junction. Rebecca guided them down toward the basement level where the utility systems lived. The duct opened into a mechanical room, massive HVAC units, Electrical panels, enough noise to cover their exit. Rebecca dropped down, first landed silent, weapon up and scanning. Clear. She motioned for Jake. He dropped down heavy, stumbled, caught himself. His face was flushed, sweat running down his temples despite the cold. How long before they figure out we're not upstairs? Minutes, maybe less. Vance is smart, he'll think like I think. He trained me, remember? Rebecca moved to the door, cracked it open. Hallway empty. We need to split their attention, make them think we're in multiple places at once. How? She pulled out her phone, accessed the micro cameras she'd planted. On the screen, she could see the conference room. Vance was talking into his radio, coordinating the search. His bodyguards flanked him, weapons drawn. Cade looked terrified, pressed against the wall, suddenly understanding he was in a room with people who killed for a living. Can you access the building's fire suppression system from here? Rebecca asked. Jake looked around the mechanical room, spotted the fire control panel. Probably. Why? Trigger it. Whole building. Make them think we're trying to create chaos, cover our escape. That'll bring the fire department. Exactly. We want witnesses. We want official presence. Makes Vance nervous, limits his options. She checked her weapons magazine. 15 rounds. Do it now. Jake moved to the fire panel, studied it for 10 seconds, then smashed the glass and pulled the manual activation. Instantly, sprinklers erupted throughout the building. The alarm changed pitch, adding fire warnings to the lockdown alert. Through the phone, Rebecca watched Vance's reaction. He smiled. Actually smiled. Clever. She's trying to force us outside. Doesn't want to fight in a confined space. He turned to his bodyguards. Miller, stay with Cade. Chen with me. We're going hunting. One bodyguard, Miller, apparently took position at the conference room door. Vance and Chen headed for the stairs. Rebecca pocketed her phone. They're coming down. We need to move. Where? Up. They'll expect us to run, try to escape. So we go toward them instead. That's insane. That's how you survive. Do the thing they don't expect. She opened the door, checked the hallway. Water was already cascading from the sprinklers, turning the floor into a slip hazard. Stay close. Move quiet. Kill if you have to. They moved through the basement like ghosts, Rebecca leading with the confidence of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Jake followed his weapon, feeling heavy in his hands. His training from a decade ago trying to resurface through the fear. They reached the service stairs. Rebecca held up a fist stop. Footsteps above them descending. Multiple people. She counted them by sound alone. 4. No, 5. Security team sweeping down. She pointed to a storage closet. They slipped inside, pressed themselves behind industrial shelving loaded with supplies. The door had a crack just wide enough to see through. The security team passed. 5 men, professional, armed with MP5 submachine guns. Not playing around. These weren't rent-a-cops. These were legitimate operators. We can't fight all of them, Jake whispered. Don't have to fight them. Just have to avoid them long enough to get to Vance. You're still planning to kill him now with the whole building hunting us. Especially now. Vance won't expect it. He thinks we're running, so we attack instead. She waited until the security team was out of sight, then led Jake back into the stairwell. They climbed to the first floor. The sprinklers had turned everything into a waterlogged nightmare. Paper documents floated past them. The alarm kept screaming. Rebecca's phone buzzed. Encrypted text from Admiral Chen. Fire department en route. Local PD alerted. Extract immediately. Rebecca typed back. Negative. Mission incomplete. That's an order, Commander. With respect, ma'am, fuck your orders. Vance dies today. She deleted the thread. Looked at Jake. You can leave. Right now. Walk out the front door, tell the first cop you see that you were working late when the fire alarm went off. You'll be fine. And you, I finish what I started. Jake's jaw tightened. You're not the only one who keeps promises. I told you I was in. I'm in. Something shifted in Rebecca's eyes. Respect, maybe. Or just recognition of another person too stubborn to know when to quit. Then let's go kill a traitor. They moved to the second floor. The conference room was down the hall, door still closed. Through the micro camera, Rebecca could see Miller standing guard inside weapon-ready eyes on the door. Cade sat at the table, soaked from the sprinklers, looking like he might throw up. Vance wasn't there. "Where is he?" Jake asked. Rebecca switched camera views, cycling through the feeds she'd planted. Found him on the 3rd floor, moving through executive offices with Chen checking rooms systematically. Hunting. "He's doing what I'd do. High ground, good sight lines control the space. So we go up there. No, we make him come to us." Rebecca pulled out a small device from her pocket, no bigger than a pill bottle. "Thermite charge, military grade. This'll burn through steel. We plant it on the conference room door, blow it, grab Cade. Vance will come running." "You want to use Cade as bait?" "I want to use Cade as leverage. Big difference." She started down the hall toward the conference room, Jake following. They were 20 feet from the door when it opened. Miller stepped out, responding to a radio call Rebecca couldn't hear. He saw them instantly. His weapon came up. Rebecca was faster. Her first shot hit him in the chest. Body armor caught it. He staggered back. Her second shot went through his throat. He dropped, gurgling, dying. Jake stood frozen, watching a man bleed out on expensive carpet. "Move." Rebecca grabbed his arm, pulled him forward. They stepped over Miller's body into the conference room. Cade looked up, saw them, tried to run. Jake caught him, slammed him against the wall. "Don't move, don't scream, don't do anything except answer questions." Jake's voice was shaking, but his grip was iron. "You understand?" Cade nodded, eyes wide. Rebecca moved to the door, weapon covering the hallway. "Where's Vance's evidence? The files proving the weapons trafficking, the intelligence leaking. Where does he keep it?" I don't know what you're talking about." Jake pressed his pistol against Cade's temple. "Wrong answer. My friend here is the patient one. I'm not. Where's the evidence?" "His laptop. He has a laptop. Everything's on there." "Where is it?" "His car. Armored Mercedes in the parking garage. He never lets it out of his sight." Rebecca swore. "Parking garage is 3 floors down. Security will have it locked down by now." Her phone showed Vance and Chen sprinting down the stairs, heading toward the 2nd floor, toward the conference room. They'd heard the shots. "We've got maybe 30 seconds before they're on us," Rebecca said. "We need to go, now." Jake grabbed Cade, shoved him toward the door. "He comes with us. He'll slow us down. He's our insurance. Vance won't shoot if he might hit Cade." Rebecca considered this for half a second, nodded. "Smart, let's move." They burst into the hallway. Vance and Chen were coming up the stairs at the far end. The moment they saw Rebecca, everything went to hell. Chen opened fire, fully automatic, spraying bullets down the hallway. Rebecca threw herself through a doorway, dragging Jake and Cade with her. Rounds chewed through drywall, shattered windows, turned the hallway into a kill zone. "Suppressing fire," Rebecca shouted at Jake. "Keep their heads down." Jake leaned out, fired 3 shots toward the stairs. Chen ducked back. Vance's voice carried over the gunfire. "Rebecca. Been a long time." She didn't answer. Was already moving, pulling Cade toward the back of the office they'd ducked into. Another window. Another drop. But this one was only 2 stories, and there was landscaping below. "We're jumping," she said. Cade's face went white. "I can't." "You can and you will." Rebecca smashed the window with her pistol grip, cleared the glass. "Jake, cover us while I get him down." "How are you going to—" She grabbed Cade, spun him around, pulled him into a rear carry position. Before he could protest, she climbed onto the window ledge, jumped backward. They fell 20 feet. Rebecca controlled the descent, used her body to absorb the impact, rolled when they hit. Cade screamed the whole way down. They landed in wet bushes that probably cost $5,000 each and were now thoroughly destroyed. Rebecca was up instantly, weapon scanning. "Jake. Now." Jake appeared at the window, hesitated for 1 second, then jumped. He hit wrong, twisted his ankle, went down hard. Rebecca grabbed him, hauled him up. "Can you run?" "Have to." Behind them, Chen appeared at the window, weapon tracking. Rebecca fired twice, missed. Chen ducked back. They ran across the grounds, Cade stumbling between them, heading for the parking garage. The fire department was arriving. Rebecca could hear sirens getting closer. Police would be right behind them. They reached the garage entrance. Security gate was down, but the pedestrian door was unlocked. Fire code required it. They burst through into concrete and shadows and the smell of exhaust. Rebecca spotted the Mercedes immediately. Black armored diplomatic plates. Vance's mobile fortress. That's it. Jake, watch R6. Cade, you're going to open that car. I don't have the keys. Then break the window. Use that. She handed him a tactical baton from her belt. Do it now. Cade smashed the driver's window. The car alarm screamed, adding another layer of noise to the chaos. He reached through, popped the locks, climbed in. Laptops in the back. Rebecca covered the entrance while Jake climbed into the Mercedes, grabbed the laptop. He was coming back out when headlights flooded the garage. A second armored vehicle screeched to a stop 50 feet away. Doors opened. 6 men in tactical gear poured out. Not Vance's people, not Cade's people. Someone else entirely. One of them raised a megaphone. Federal agents, drop your weapons. Rebecca's blood went cold. FBI. Jake looked at her. You said Vance had FBI connections. He does. Which means either these are real agents coming to help us, or they're dirty agents coming to kill us. She raised her voice. We need to speak to whoever's in charge. We have evidence of weapons trafficking and intelligence leaking. The megaphone again. Drop your weapons first, then we talk. Not happening, Rebecca shouted back. Robert Vance is in this building. He's a traitor selling SEAL team locations. We can prove it. A pause. Then a different voice, younger female. Commander Morrison, is that you? Rebecca's mind raced through possibilities. That voice was familiar. Very familiar. Identify yourself. Special Agent Sarah Chen, Naval Criminal Investigative Service, your handler's niece. She sent us when you went dark. Rebecca's weapon lowered slightly. Patricia Chen's niece. NCIS, not FBI. That was real backup. That was the cavalry. Prove it. Your favorite quote is the only easy day was yesterday. You have a sister named Hannah who teaches kindergarten. You were declared KIA in Vienna in 2006, but you've been running deep cover ops ever since. Admiral Chen told me everything an hour ago when the fire alarm started. She knew you wouldn't extract without finishing the mission. Rebecca lowered her weapon completely. Stand down, Jake. They're friendly. 6 NCIS agents approached, weapons still ready but not aimed. Sarah Chen was young, maybe 30, her aunt's features visible in her face. She looked at Rebecca with something like awe. Ma'am, we're here to help, but we need to move fast. Local PD is 2 minutes out and they don't know what's happening. If you have evidence against Vance, we need it now. Jake held up the laptop. Everything's here. Financial records, communications logs, proof of weapons trafficking, and intelligence leaking. And we have Marcus Cade, he'll testify. Cade was still in the Mercedes, looking shell-shocked. Sarah nodded to her team. Secure the laptop. Get Cade into protective custody. She looked at Rebecca. Where's Vance? Inside. 2nd floor, armed and dangerous. He's got at least 1 bodyguard left, plus whatever security Cade hired. We'll take him. You two need to disappear before the locals arrive. My aunt was clear your cover stays intact. I'm not leaving until Vance is in custody. With respect, ma'am, you don't have a choice. Your face is on every security camera in that building. If the San Diego police take you in, start asking questions, your whole legend falls apart. And according to my aunt, you've still got active operations that depend on people thinking you're dead. Rebecca's fists clenched. 23 years hunting Vance, and now she was supposed to walk away when he was 50 feet away. Jake put his hand on her arm. She's right. We did our part. Let them finish it. He'll slip away. He always does. Sarah's voice was firm. Not this time. We have his laptop. His accomplice. His vehicle. Physical evidence from the Oceanic Club. Even if he runs, he's done. His network is burned. His contacts are exposed. You won. You just don't get to see the end game. Sirens were getting louder. Multiple vehicles converging. Ma'am, please, Sarah said. My aunt would never forgive me if I let you get caught now. Rebecca looked at the building. Somewhere inside, Vance was realizing his empire was collapsing. Part of her wanted to go back in, wanted to look him in the eyes when he finally understood he'd lost. But Jake was right. Sarah was right. The mission was bigger than personal revenge. "How do we get out?" Sarah gestured to one of her agents who pulled out keys. "Take our van. Agent Morrison will drive you. There's a safe house in Oceanside. Address is programmed into the GPS. You lay low for 48 hours while we clean this up." Another NCIS agent, Morrison, apparently no relation, appeared with a set of car keys. Young guy, early 20s, looked nervous about being assigned to transport a legend. Rebecca turned to Jake. "You coming?" "Where else am I going to go? I just helped assault a private military contractor and kidnap their VP of operations." "You helped stop a traitor from getting more Americans killed." "Pretty sure the San Diego police won't see it that way." Agent Morrison cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we really need to move." They were heading for the NCIS van when the explosion ripped through the second floor of the Oceanic Club. The blast wave knocked them down. Windows shattered. Car alarms shrieked. Rebecca's ears rang, but her mind was already analyzing size of blast location, type of explosive. "Thermite charge," she said. "Burning through a wall or a safe. Someone's destroying evidence." Sarah was on her radio immediately. "All units, structure fire, second floor." "Where's Vance?" A voice crackled back. "Lost visual during the blast. Chen is down, possible fatality. No sign of primary target." Rebecca was already running back toward the building. Jake and Sarah sprinted after her. "Morrison, wait." Rebecca didn't wait. She hit the pedestrian entrance, took the stairs 3 at a time. Smoke was pouring down from above. The sprinkler system was fighting a losing battle against chemical fire. She reached the second floor. The conference room was an inferno, white-hot flames eating through steel and concrete. Through the smoke, she saw a figure moving away from the fire. Tall, gray hair, expensive suit. Vance. He was heading for the far stairwell, moving fast but not panicking. In his hand was a briefcase Rebecca hadn't seen before. Whatever he'd been storing in that conference room, he'd grabbed it before burning the room down. Vance. He stopped, turned, saw her through the smoke. For 3 seconds, they just stared at each other. 23 years of hunting, of near misses, of one step behind or one step ahead. It all came down to this moment, this hallway, this fire. Vance smiled. "You never could let things go. You killed 12 men, American soldiers. I provided intelligence to paying customers. What they did with it wasn't my concern. They were my brothers. They were marks in a ledger." He adjusted his grip on the briefcase. "You should have stayed dead, Rebecca. You were better as a ghost." "Funny. I was thinking the same thing about you." She raised her weapon. He dove for the stairwell. Rebecca fired 3 times. All 3 shots hit the door frame where he'd been a second before. She ran after him, hit the stairwell, looked down. Vance was already on the landing below, taking the stairs with the agility of a man 20 years younger. Rebecca followed her ankle, screaming where she'd landed wrong during the jump. Jake was right behind her then. Sarah and her team. They reached the ground floor. Vance burst through the exit into the parking garage. A motorcycle was waiting there, not his Mercedes, something else. Pre-positioned. Backup plan. He threw the briefcase into a saddlebag, started the engine. Rebecca came through the door, raised her weapon. Clear shot, 20 feet. She could make it. But civilians were pouring out of the building now, fleeing the fire. Her backdrop was people, not concrete. She couldn't take the shot. Vance saw her hesitation, laughed, gunned the engine. The motorcycle roared toward the exit. Rebecca ran after it, knowing she couldn't catch it, knowing he was getting away, knowing this was Beirut all over again. Then Jake stepped into the motorcycle's path. Vance swerved, lost control, went down hard. The bike skidded 20 feet, sparks flying. Vance rolled clear, came up with a pistol. He aimed at Jake. Rebecca's shot took him in the shoulder. He spun, fired back. His round caught Rebecca in the vest center mass, knocked her down. Her second shot went through his thigh. He collapsed. Sarah's team swarmed him. 4 agents, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Vance dropped his pistol, raised his hands. Blood was spreading across his expensive suit. Rebecca got to her feet, ribs screaming. Walked over to where Vance lay on the concrete, NCIS agents cuffing him. She knelt down, got close to his ear. Whispered so only he could hear. Beirut, 2001. You left me for dead in that safe house. You said I was too weak to survive in this world. Said I'd never amount to anything. She stood up. How'd that work out for you? Vance's eyes were full of hate. This isn't over. Yeah, it is. Your network is gone. Your contacts are exposed. Your money is frozen. And you're going to spend the rest of your life in a cell wondering how a janitor took you down. Paramedics were arriving along with what looked like half the San Diego police force. Sarah pulled Rebecca aside. You need to go, right now, before someone starts taking statements. What about him? He's ours. Federal custody. We'll make sure he never sees daylight again. Sarah glanced at her team securing Vance. But you can't be here when the police start asking questions. Your face, your fingerprints, everything has to stay off the record. Rebecca nodded, looked at Jake. You ready to disappear? Been ready since I saw you drop me in that gym. They walked to the NCIS van. Agent Morrison was waiting, looking even more nervous than before. As they drove away, Rebecca looked back at the Oceanic Club. Smoke was still pouring from the second floor. Fire trucks were arriving. Police were setting up a perimeter. Vance was being loaded into an ambulance under heavy guard. 23 years of hunting. Finally over. Jake broke the silence. What happens now? Now we disappear for 48 hours. Let NCIS clean this up. Let the investigation run its course. Then we see what's left of our lives. Think there'll be anything left? Rebecca almost smiled. There's always something left. You just have to be willing to find it. Her phone buzzed. Text from Admiral Chen. Vance in custody. Evidence secured. Yemen team diverted. Mission accomplished. Well done, Commander. Come home. Rebecca typed back, define home. The response was immediate. Wherever you want it to be, you've earned that much. She put the phone away, looked at Jake. You ever been to Germany? Germany, why? Because in 48 hours, I need to officially resign from a job at Ramstein Air Base that I've been pretending to work at for 6 months. Figured I'd actually visit the place before I quit. And then I go see my sister, my daughter. Try to explain to them that I've been alive this whole time. Try to build something that looks like a life. She paused. You could come with me, if you want. Not Germany, but after. I'm consulting for the SEAL Training Command, teaching hand-to-hand combat. They could use another instructor, someone who understands what it means to fight smart instead of hard. Jake thought about this, about his apartment in San Diego that he'd never see again, about his job at Titan that no longer existed, about the life he'd had yesterday that was gone forever. Yeah, he said finally. Yeah, I could do that. Shush. They drove north toward Oceanside, toward the safe house, toward whatever came next. Behind them, Robert Vance lay in an ambulance, cuffed to a gurney, surrounded by federal agents who would never let him out of their sight. He stared at the ceiling, calculating odds, analyzing options, looking for the angle that would let him slip away one more time. He wouldn't find it. The evidence was too strong, the witnesses too many, the political pressure too great. He was done. Finished. Over. But he'd made one final play before they'd taken him down. The briefcase they'd confiscated from the motorcycle wasn't his evidence. It was a decoy. The real evidence, the complete client list, the offshore accounts, the classified files he'd collected over 30 years, was already en route to insurance policies he'd established decades ago. If he went down, he'd take everyone with him. Senators, generals, CIA directors, corporate CEOs. Everyone who'd ever paid him for information. Everyone who'd ever benefited from his treason. The dead man's switch was active. In 72 hours, if he didn't check in, the files would be released to every major news organization simultaneously. The scandal would make WikiLeaks look like a church newsletter. They thought they'd won. They thought it was over. They had no idea what was coming. The safe house in Oceanside was supposed to be secure. 3 bedrooms, reinforced doors, panic room in the basement, NCIS surveillance monitoring the perimeter. Rebecca had been in 100 safe houses over 23 years, and they all felt the same temporary shelter for people who couldn't go home. She sat at the kitchen table at 3 a.m., unable to sleep, staring at Vance's laptop that Sarah Chen had let her keep temporarily. The encrypted files were taking hours to crack, even with NCIS software. Jake was passed out on the couch, exhausted from the adrenaline crash. Agent Morrison was in the surveillance van outside, probably also asleep. Rebecca's phone rang. Admiral Chen. At 3 a.m., that meant trouble. "Tell me he didn't escape," Rebecca said instead of hello. "He didn't escape, but we have a problem." Chen's voice was tight. "Vance activated something before we took him. A dead man's switch. If he doesn't check in every 72 hours, files get released automatically to the press." Rebecca's blood went cold. "What kind of files?" "Everything. Client lists, operational details, classified intelligence from 30 years of treason. Names of senators who looked the other way, generals who took bribes, CIA directors who authorized illegal operations. If those files go public, it won't just destroy Vance. It'll destroy half the national security establishment." "When did the clock start?" 6 hours ago. We have 66 hours to either get Vance to disable it or find where the files are stored and neutralize them ourselves. He won't cooperate, you know that. He will if he thinks it's his only play. We're offering him a deal: life in prison instead of execution, protection from the people who want him dead, medical care for his injuries. In exchange, he disables the switch. Rebecca laughed bitterly. He'll never take that deal. Vance would rather burn the world than spend his life in a cell. Then we need to find those files, which is why I'm calling you. Chen paused. Vance's laptop, the one you took from his car. We've been trying to crack the encryption remotely, but it's beyond anything we've seen. Military grade, possibly foreign intelligence service level. Our best analysts say it could take weeks. You want me to crack it? I want you to find anything on that laptop that tells us where the dead man's switch is hosted. Server locations, backup sites, anything. Rebecca pulled the laptop closer, studied the encryption barrier on the screen. I'm not a hacker, I'm a field operative. But you know Vance. You know how he thinks. If anyone can figure out where he'd hide his insurance policy, it's you. What if I can't? Chen's silence stretched for 5 seconds. Then in 66 hours, we lose control of the narrative. Vance wins from behind bars. And every dirty secret of the last 3 decades becomes public knowledge. Governments fall. Alliances collapse. People die. Including probably you. Because your name is in those files too. Rebecca's hand tightened on the phone. My name. Everything about you. Your real identity. Your operations. Your current legend. If those files go public, everyone you've ever crossed will know you're alive. They'll know where to find you. And they'll come for you, Rebecca. All of them. Jake stirred on the couch, waking from the sound of Rebecca's voice. He sat up, saw her face, knew something was wrong. How long do I have? Rebecca asked. 66 hours. I'm sending our best cyber analyst to Oceanside. She'll be there in 4 hours. Work with her, find those files, stop this. Chen hung up. Rebecca set down the phone, closed her eyes, felt the weight of 23 years pressing down on her shoulders. What happened? Jake asked. Rebecca told him. Everything. The dead man switched the files, the timeline. Jake listened without interrupting, his face growing harder with each sentence. So we have 2.5 days to crack military-grade encryption and find files that could be anywhere in the world. Otherwise, everyone we've ever fought against learns you're alive and comes hunting. That's the situation. We're so screwed. Probably. Rebecca opened the laptop again, stared at the login screen. But I didn't survive 23 years by giving up when things looked bad. She started typing. The encryption software locked her out after 3 failed password attempts. She expected that. But what she didn't expect was the message that appeared after the 3rd attempt. Hello, Rebecca, I knew you'd try, but you're not getting in this easily. If you want what's inside, you'll have to work for it. RV. Jake read over her shoulder. He left you a message. Vance always did have a flair for drama. Rebecca studied the message. He wants me to know he's still in control. Even in federal custody, even injured, he's still playing games. What kind of games? The laptop screen changed. A video player appeared automatically, starting playback. Vance's face filled the screen recorded sometime before the operation at the Oceanic Club. He looked healthy smug sitting in what appeared to be a hotel room. "If you're watching this," Vance's recorded voice said, "it means I'm either dead or in custody. Either way, congratulations, Rebecca. You finally caught me. Or did you?" Rebecca's jaw clenched. "The files you're looking for, the ones that will destroy your life if they're released, are encrypted with a key only I know. And that key is hidden in 12 locations around the world. Each location requires you to answer a question. Each question relates to our shared history. Get them all right and you get the encryption key. Get even one wrong and the files release immediately. No second chances." Jake swore. "This is insane." On screen, Vance smiled. "You have 66 hours from the moment I'm taken into custody. The clock is already running. The first question is waiting in your old operational email account. You remember the account you used in Beirut before you tried to kill me? I've been monitoring it for 23 years, Rebecca. Did you really think I'd forget about you?" The video ended. The laptop screen went dark. Rebecca stood up, paced the kitchen, her mind racing. "He's forcing me to relive our entire history. Every operation we ran together, every mission, every moment before Beirut. He wants me to remember what I used to be before I became his enemy. Can you do it? Answer his questions." "I don't know. Some of that history is buried deep, classified beyond my clearance level. Some of it I've tried to forget." She stopped pacing. "But I don't have a choice. If I don't play his game, we lose everything." Her phone rang again. Different number. She answered. "Commander Morrison." A young woman's voice, professional, exhausted. "This is Agent Lisa Park, NSA Cyber Division. Admiral Chen sent me. I'm 10 minutes out from your location. We need to talk about the Vance situation." "I just got his message. He wants me to answer questions about our operational history." "I know. We intercepted the video when it uploaded to the laptop. I've been analyzing it. There's metadata embedded in the file, hints about where each question is located. The first one is definitely in an old email account, like he said, but the others are scattered. Dark websites, encrypted message boards, dead drops in foreign cities. This isn't just a scavenger hunt. It's a test of everything you know about tradecraft. Can you help me? That's why I'm here. My specialty is digital forensics and encryption breaking, but I need you to provide the human intelligence, the history only you know." Lisa Park arrived 9 minutes later, early 30s, Asian American, carrying 3 laptop bags and enough energy drinks to fuel a small army. She set up shop at the kitchen table, connected her equipment, started running diagnostics on Vance's laptop, before she'd even introduced herself properly. "Okay," she said, typing rapidly. "I'm seeing the same encryption barrier you hit, but I can bypass the lockout using a hardware exploit. Give me 5 minutes." She worked in focused silence, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards simultaneously. Rebecca watched, impressed despite herself. This woman was good. "Got it." Lisa turned one of her screens toward Rebecca. "Your old email account from Beirut. I'm routing it through anonymized servers so Vance doesn't know we've accessed it. There's one message sent 6 hours ago, right after he was taken into custody." Rebecca read the email. Question 1. What was the name of the asset we ran in Damascus 2000? The one who gave us the chemical weapons location. The one you insisted we extract, even though I said we should burn him. Answer correctly, and you get coordinates for question 2. Answer wrong, and 66 hours becomes 60 seconds. Rebecca closed her eyes, forcing herself back to 2000. Damascus. Chemical weapons. An asset whose life she'd fought to save. "Kareem," she said suddenly. "Kareem Halabi. He was a scientist at a government lab. He contacted us through back channels, said he had proof of chemical weapons development. Vance wanted to use him and dispose of him. I convinced command to extract him. We got him and his family out 3 days before the facility was raided." Lisa typed the answer into a response field that had appeared. Hit send. 10 seconds of silence. Then the laptop chimed. New coordinates appeared on screen. "Question 2 is in London," Lisa said, reading the data. "Specific location, a safety deposit box at Barclays Bank Knightsbridge branch. Box number 2847. Jake looked at the clock. London is 11 hours ahead. If we left right now, we could be there by... We can't go to London. Rebecca was already pulling up flight schedules on her phone. We don't have passports that would survive scrutiny. I'm supposed to be dead. Remember? Lisa didn't look up from her screen. Admiral Chen anticipated that. She's arranging diplomatic transport. Military flight out of Miramar direct to RAF Lakenheath. You'll have covers as DoD contractors. 6 hours flight time plus 2 hours to get from the base to London. You'd arrive with about 56 hours left on the clock. What about you? Rebecca asked. I stay here, keep working the laptop, try to find back doors into Vance's system. If you can answer his questions, great. If not, maybe I can crack the encryption before the deadline. She didn't sound confident about that option. Rebecca looked at Jake. You don't have to come. This isn't your fight anymore. You did your part. The SEAL team in Yemen is safe. Vance is in custody. You could walk away. Jake stood up, grabbed his jacket. How many more times are you going to give me that speech I told you I'm in? Stop trying to get rid of me. Something almost like a smile crossed Rebecca's face. Let's go to London. The flight out of Miramar left at 0600. Military transport, no windows, no comfort. Just metal benches and cargo netting and the constant roar of engines. Rebecca spent the flight reviewing her operational history, trying to anticipate what questions Vance would ask. Jake tried to sleep, failed, ended up just watching Rebecca work through memories he couldn't begin to understand. How do you remember all this? He asked at one point. Operations from 20 years ago. Names, dates, details. You don't forget the missions that define you. The ones where you made choices that saved lives or cost them. Vance knows that. He's picking questions that force me to relive my worst moments and my best ones, making me prove I earned the right to take him down. That's twisted. That's Vance. He's always been more interested in the psychology of intelligence work than the actual intelligence. He used to say that secrets aren't about information, they're about power. The power to control people, to make them doubt themselves, to turn their own memories into weapons. Sounds like you learned from him. I learned what not to become. Rebecca closed her eyes. He's brilliant, and he's ruthless, and he's completely amoral. Everything he does is transactional. People are assets or liabilities, nothing more. I watched him burn sources who'd risked everything for us because it was operationally convenient. I watched him manipulate people into destroying their own lives because it advanced his agenda. And when I finally understood what he really was, when I tried to stop him in Beirut, he tried to kill me without hesitation. Why didn't he succeed? Because I was better than he thought I was, and because I wanted to live more than he wanted me dead. They landed at RAF Lakenheath at 1400 local time. A car was waiting, embassy plates, diplomatic immunity, driven by a Marine sergeant who asked no questions and drove fast. They reached Barclays Bank in Knightsbridge at 15:30. The bank manager was expecting them. Admiral Chen had made calls, pulled strings, invoked national security. The manager led them to the vault, used his master key, along with the box number Lisa had provided. You have 15 minutes, he said. Bank policy. Rebecca opened the safety deposit box. Inside was a single USB drive and a handwritten note. Question 2, Belgrade, 1999. We ran an operation to extract a war crimes witness before he could testify at The Hague. You argued we should let him testify, expose the war criminals. I said our job was to protect American interests, not enforce international law. Who was the witness? What happened to him? Rebecca's hands trembled, holding the note. Alexander Petrovich. He was a Serbian officer who'd participated in ethnic cleansing. But he was also our asset. He'd been feeding us intelligence about Russian arms shipments to Serbia. When the ICC wanted him for testimony, Vance pulled him out. Gave him a new identity, relocated him to South America. Petrovich lived free while his victims got no justice. Jake watched her face. You're still angry about that. I'm angry about a lot of things, but we don't have time for therapy. She typed the answer into a secure messaging app that Lisa had set up for communication. Alexander Petrovich. Exfiltrated by Vance against my recommendation. Given new identity, relocated to Argentina. Lisa's response came back immediately. Correct. Question 3 uploading now. Moscow. Physical location required, you need to go there. Rebecca swore. We can't get to Moscow in the time we have left. Even with military transport, it's... Her phone rang. Admiral Chen again. I'm tracking your progress. Moscow is the next stop. Yes, ma'am. But the timeline? I've arranged transport. RAF Lakenheath to Ramstein, then direct to Moscow via diplomatic channel. You'll have cover as trade delegation staff. The ambassador owes me favors. You'll land in Moscow with 48 hours on the clock. What about Russian intelligence? They'll be monitoring. Let me worry about the Russians. You worry about Vance's questions, and Rebecca, you're doing well. Keep going. Chen hung up. Rebecca looked at Jake. Ever been to Moscow? No. Is it nice this time of year? It's freezing and miserable, and the FSB will be watching our every move. So probably not. They flew to Moscow through the night, arriving at Sheremetyevo Airport at 0300 local time. An embassy staffer met them at the diplomatic entrance, bypassed customs, led them to a waiting car. You're here for the safety deposit box at Sberbank, yes? The staffer asked in accented English. Very unusual request from Washington, but arrangements have been made. The bank wasn't open until 900. They spent 6 hours in an embassy apartment drinking bad coffee, trying not to think about the clock running down. Lisa checked in every hour with status updates. She was making progress on the encryption, but not fast enough. They needed to keep answering questions. At 0900, they were at Sberbank. Another safety deposit box. Another handwritten note from Vance. Question 3 Moscow, 2003. Operation Raven's Nest. We were tracking a Russian mob boss who was selling nuclear material to terrorist groups. You went undercover as his mistress to get close to him. 3 weeks deep cover, Rebecca. I know you haven't forgotten. What was his name? And what did you do that wasn't in your official report? Rebecca's face went white. Jake noticed immediately. What's wrong? This question. He's not asking about operational details. He's asking about something personal. Something I never told anyone. What happened? Rebecca stared at the note for a long time before answering. His name was Dmitry Volkov, and I killed him. Not in self-defense, not as part of the mission. I killed him because he was a monster who'd sold weapons to people who wanted to use them on American cities. The official report said he died during the extraction caught in crossfire. But that was a lie. I executed him. Put a bullet in his head while he slept. Vance knew. He helped me cover it up. And now he's using it against me. Why would he cover up an execution? Because it gave him leverage over me. Because he knew someday he'd need to use it. Because that's how Vance works. He collects secrets the way other people collect stamps. Jake's voice was careful. Are you going to answer truthfully? If I lie, the files release. Everyone dies. So yes. She typed, Dmitry Volkov. I executed him during extraction. Single shot, close range. Vance helped fabricate the crossfire story. Lisa's response. Correct. Question 4 uploading. Dubai. You have 38 hours left. They flew to Dubai through Istanbul, arrived with 32 hours on the clock. The question was waiting at another bank, another safety deposit box, another memory Rebecca wished she could forget. Question 4 Dubai. 2005. You were running surveillance on an arms dealer selling American weapons to insurgents in Iraq. I told you to observe only. You disobeyed orders, intercepted the shipment, killed 3 of his men. What did you discover that made you break protocol? What was in those weapons crates that wasn't supposed to be there? Rebecca closed her eyes. Serial numbers. The weapons were supposed to be lost in Iraq, destroyed, written off as combat losses. But the serial numbers showed they'd been stolen from a U.S. military base in Germany. Someone American was stealing weapons and selling them to our enemies. I reported it up the chain. The investigation got buried. 6 months later, those same weapons were used in an IED attack that killed 8 Marines. And Vance knew he was the one who buried the investigation. He was protecting someone high up the chain, someone who was making money off the theft. She typed the answer. Lisa confirmed it was correct. Question 5 was in Singapore. They were running out of time. 28 hours left. Every flight, every delay, every minute spent in transit brought them closer to failure. Lisa was sending increasingly desperate updates. She'd cracked some of Vance's secondary encryption, but the primary remained impenetrable. Singapore, Hong Kong, Tokyo. Questions that forced Rebecca to relive betrayals and executions and operations that had cost good people their lives. Each answer brought them closer to the encryption key. Each answer also brought them closer to the deadline. 18 hours left. 12 questions down, allegedly 12 total according to Vance's message. They should be done. They should have the encryption key. But question 13 appeared on Rebecca's phone as they landed in Manila for what was supposed to be the final stop. Question 13, Vienna 2006, the day you died. The day I tried to kill you and you put 2 bullets in me instead. We both know what happened in that safe house, Rebecca. We both know the truth. So here's your final question. Why did you let me live? You had me. You could have finished it. Why didn't you? Rebecca read the question 3 times. Jake watched her, saw something in her expression he hadn't seen before. Vulnerability. Doubt. I don't understand, Jake said. What's he asking? He's asking why I didn't execute him when I had the chance. In Vienna, after I shot him, I called for extraction instead of finishing him. I could have killed him and ended everything right there. But I didn't. Why not? Rebecca was silent for a long time. Because I thought he could be saved. Because despite everything he'd done, everything he'd become, there was a part of me that remembered who he used to be. He was my mentor. He taught me everything about intelligence work. And I thought stupidly, naively, that maybe he could be brought back, that maybe he wasn't completely lost. You were wrong. I was an idiot, and my mercy cost 12 men their lives over the next 23 years. So what's the answer? Why did you let him live? Rebecca stared at the question. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, and then she understood. It's a trick question. He's not asking for a tactical reason or a moral justification. He's asking what I learned, what the price of mercy taught me. She typed, I let you live because I wasn't ready to become you. I let you live because I still believed in justice over revenge. I let you live because I was weak. I won't make that mistake again. She hit send, held her breath. Lisa's response came 10 seconds later. Encryption key received. I have access to the dead man's switch. Disabling it now. Then, switch disabled. Files secured. Mission accomplished. Rebecca's hands were shaking. She set down the phone, closed. Her eyes felt the weight of 23 years finally lifting. Jake's voice was quiet. Is it over? Yeah, it's over. What happens now? Rebecca pulled out her phone, opened the secure line to Admiral Chen. The call connected immediately. Files are secured, Chen asked. Confirmed. Vance's dead man's switch is disabled. His insurance policy is ours now. Then it's time to come home. Both of you. There's a military transport waiting in Manila. You'll be back in San Diego in 16 hours. What about Vance? He's going to prison for the rest of his life. Federal supermax, no contact with the outside world, no possibility of parole. He'll die in a cell alone, forgotten. Everything he built, everyone he corrupted, we're dismantling it piece by piece. The contractors, the senators, the CIA officers, all of them. Justice is slow, Rebecca, but it's coming. Rebecca felt tears sting her eyes. The SEAL team in Yemen. Home safe. Mission canceled after we exposed the intelligence leak. They don't know who saved them. They'll never know. But they're alive. 12 men who would be dead if you hadn't stopped Vance. 13, Rebecca said quietly. Counting Jake. Chen's voice softened. Counting Jake, who incidentally has a job offer waiting when he gets back. SEAL Training Command wants him as an instructor. Someone apparently recommended him very highly. Rebecca looked at Jake, almost smiled. He earned it. So did you. I'll see you in 16 hours. And Rebecca, welcome back from the dead. Officially this time. The call ended. Rebecca and Jake sat in silence in the Manila airport, surrounded by travelers who had no idea what had just happened, who would never know how close the world had come to chaos. "You okay?" Jake asked. "I will be, eventually." Rebecca stood up. "Come on, let's go home." "Where's home?" "Wherever we decide it is." She picked up her bag. "But first I have to see my sister. Tell her I'm alive. Try to explain 23 years of lies. That should be fun." They walked through the airport toward the military terminal, two people who'd started as strangers and ended as something else. Not quite friends, not quite partners. Something forged in fire and blood and decisions that would haunt them both for the rest of their lives. Behind them, in a federal prison in Colorado, Robert Vance sat in a cell, staring at walls that would be his world until he died. He'd lost everything, his network, his freedom, his power. But he'd accomplished something too. He'd forced Rebecca to confront every choice she'd ever made, every betrayal she'd witnessed, every execution she'd performed, every moment of weakness and strength that had defined her 23 years in the shadows. And in doing that, he'd given her something unexpected: closure, the ability to finally let go of the past and build something new. It wasn't the victory he'd wanted, but it was the one he'd earned. The game was over. The players were leaving the board. And somewhere in San Diego, a kindergarten teacher named Hannah was about to get a phone call that would change her life forever. Rebecca stood outside the elementary school in San Diego for 20 minutes before she found the courage to walk through the front doors. 23 years of facing enemy combatants, corrupt officials, and international arms dealers, none of it had prepared her for this moment, telling her sister she was alive. The school secretary looked up from her desk, smiled that professional smile reserved for visiting parents. "Can I help you? I'm here to see Hannah Reeves. It's a family emergency." The smile faltered. "Is she expecting you?" "No, but she'll want to see me. Tell her it's about Rebecca." 5 minutes later, Hannah appeared in the hallway. 32 years old now, blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing a dress covered in cartoon animals that her kindergartners probably loved. She looked exactly like their mother had at that age, and seeing her hit Rebecca like a physical blow. Hannah stopped 10 feet away. Her face went through a sequence of emotions too fast to track: confusion, recognition, denial, shock. "That's not possible," Hannah whispered. "You're dead. You died in Vienna. I went to your funeral. Her voice broke. "Who are you?" "It's me, Hannah. It's really me." "My sister is dead." Rebecca took a step forward. Hannah took a step back. The distance between them felt wider than all the miles Rebecca had traveled in the last 72 hours. "I know what the military told you. I know what you believed for 23 years. But it was a lie. A necessary lie to keep you safe, to keep me operational. But it was still a lie, and I'm sorry. God, Hannah, I'm so sorry." Hannah's hand went to her mouth. Tears were streaming down her face. "Prove it. Prove you're really her." Rebecca's mind raced through possibilities, then landed on something nobody else could know. "When you were 8, you fell off your bike and broke your arm. Mom and Dad were at work. I stayed with you in the emergency room for 6 hours. You were terrified of the X-ray machine, thought it would hurt. I told you a story about a princess who had magic bones that could heal anything. You stopped crying. And when they put the cast on, you made me sign it first. I wrote, 'Your big sister loves you forever.' You kept that cast for 3 years after they took it off. It's probably still in a box somewhere in your apartment." Hannah's knees buckled. She grabbed the wall for support. Oh my God, it's really you." Rebecca closed the distance, caught her sister as she collapsed. They sank to the floor together, Hannah sobbing into Rebecca's shoulder, 23 years of grief pouring out all at once. "Why?" Hannah choked out between sobs. "Why did you let me think you were dead? Because if anyone knew I was alive, they'd come for you to get to me. I had enemies, Hannah. Dangerous people who would have used you as leverage. The only way to keep you safe was to stay dead. For 23 years. For however long it took to finish the mission. To make the world safe enough that you didn't need me to be a ghost anymore." Hannah pulled back. looked at her sister's face, older now, harder marked by experiences she couldn't begin to understand. Are you safe now? Is it over? It's over. The man I've been hunting for 2 decades is in prison. His network is destroyed. I can finally come back. Come back to what I have: a life now. Friends, a career, Hannah stopped herself. I was going to say I have a family, but I don't. Because the only family I had supposedly died in Austria doing God knows what for the government. The hurt in her voice was worse than any wound Rebecca had taken in combat. I know I can't make up for the time we lost. I know saying sorry doesn't fix 23 years of absence. But I'm here now. If you'll let me be. Hannah stood up, wrapped her arms around herself. I need time. I need to process this. She looked at Rebecca. I need you to not disappear again. Can you promise me that? I promise. I'm done disappearing. Where are you staying? I don't know yet. Haven't thought that far ahead. Hannah pulled out her phone, typed something, handed it to Rebecca. That's my address. Come over tonight, 7 p.m. We'll talk, really talk. And you're going to tell me everything, every lie, every secret, every reason you thought leaving me alone was worth it. Hannah. 7 p.m. Don't be late. You've already missed 23 years. I won't tolerate you being late for dinner, too. She walked away back toward her classroom, leaving Rebecca standing in the hallway feeling more lost than she'd ever felt in hostile territory. Jake was waiting in the parking lot leaning against their rental car. He took one look at Rebecca's face and knew. That bad? Worse. She's angry. She's hurt. Rebecca stopped. She's right to be all those things. What did you expect? That she'd just hug you and everything would be fine? I don't know what I expected. Maybe that's the problem. Rebecca got in the car. I spent 23 years compartmentalizing. Mission first, emotions later. Except later never came until now. Jake drove them to a hotel near the SEAL training facility at Coronado. They checked in using the IDs Admiral Chen had provided, real names this time. No more legends, no more covers. Just Rebecca Morrison and Jake Thornton. 2 people trying to figure out what normal looked like. Rebecca's phone rang while she was unpacking. Admiral Chen. How did it go with your sister? About as well as you'd expect. She's processing. We're having dinner tonight. That's more than some people get. Consider yourself lucky. Chen's tone shifted, became more formal. I'm calling about your next assignment. Next assignment? I thought I was done. You are, with field operations. But I have a different role in mind. SEAL Training Command needs someone to teach advanced hand-to-hand combat and tactical decision-making under pressure. Someone with real-world experience who can teach these kids what actually works versus what looks good in training. I'm not a teacher. You taught Jake Thornton a lesson he'll never forget. You spent 23 years teaching enemies what happens when they underestimate you. You're exactly a teacher. You just haven't been teaching on our side of the equation. Rebecca thought about the gym at Titan Defense, about dropping Jake in front of his recruits, about the look on his face when he realized he'd been wrong about everything. What's the pay? Chen laughed. Enough to rent an apartment and take your sister to nice dinners while you rebuild your relationship. The job starts in 2 weeks. That gives you time to settle in, make peace with your family, remember how to be human. I don't know if I remember how to be human. Then you'll learn. Same way you learned everything else, by doing it until it becomes second nature. Chen paused. You did good work, Rebecca. You saved lives. You stopped a traitor. You earned the right to stop running. Take it. Rebecca looked out the hotel window at the Pacific Ocean, at the beach where civilians were walking dogs and flying kites, and doing normal things that felt alien after 2 decades of abnormal. I'll take it. But I want Jake as my co-instructor. He's got the teaching background, the tactical experience, and he's better with people than I am. Already arranged. He starts when you start. Admiral's orders. You planned this whole thing, didn't you? I planned for multiple contingencies. This was the best case scenario. Be grateful we got it. Chen's voice softened. Welcome home, Commander. Try to enjoy it. The call ended. Rebecca sat on the hotel bed staring at her phone, trying to wrap her mind around the concept of home. Jake knocked on her door an hour later. Got a message from the training command. Apparently we're starting in 2 weeks. Apparently? You okay with that? Okay with getting paid to teach young SEALs that size doesn't matter, and technique beats strength. Yeah, I think I can handle that. He sat in the chair by the window. What about you? You ready to stop running? I don't know. Running is all I've done for 23 years. Standing still feels dangerous. That's because you've been in danger for 23 years. Your threat assessment is calibrated wrong. You need to recalibrate. Rebecca almost smiled. When did you get so wise? About the same time a 57-year-old janitor dropped me on my ass and made me question everything I thought I knew about combat. At 6:45 p.m., Rebecca stood outside Hannah's apartment building, nervous, in a way she hadn't been nervous since her first Black Ops mission. Jake had offered to come for moral support, but she'd declined. This was something she needed to do alone. Hannah opened the door at exactly 7:00. No hug, no smile, just a gesture for Rebecca to come inside. The apartment was small but warm, filled with photos and artwork, and the detritus of a life well lived. Rebecca saw pictures of Hannah's graduation. Hannah with friends, Hannah receiving a teaching award. All moments Rebecca had missed. Sit, Hannah said, pointing to the couch. I made pasta. I remember you used to love my pasta. You were 12 last time you cooked for me. You made macaroni and cheese from a box. I've improved since then. Hannah brought 2 plates, sat across from Rebecca at the small dining table. Start talking, and don't leave anything out. Rebecca talked for 3 hours. She told Hannah about naval intelligence, about going undercover, about Vance and the Beirut operation that had supposedly killed her. She told her about the 23 years of deep cover work, the operations that saved lives and the ones that cost them. She told her about the loneliness, the constant fear of being discovered, the weight of carrying so many secrets. Hannah listened without interrupting, her face cycling through emotions. Anger, sadness, understanding, more anger. You could have contacted me, Hannah said when Rebecca finally finished. Some way, anyway. A letter, a message, something to let me know you were alive. If I'd done that, the people hunting me would have known to look for you. They would have monitored you, followed you, used you to find me. I couldn't risk it. So you chose your mission over your family. I chose to keep you alive. That was my mission. Hannah's fist hit the table. That was my choice to make. You don't get to decide for me what risks I'm willing to take. You were 23 years old. I was an adult. I had a right to know my sister was alive. I had a right to grieve or not grieve based on the truth. Not a lie. The government fed me. Hannah stood up, paced the small apartment. Do you know what it's like to lose someone? To go to their funeral and cry over an empty casket, to spend 23 years wondering if you told them you loved them enough before they died. I thought I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself from having to choose between your mission and your family. You made the choice easy by taking family off the table entirely. The words hit like bullets. Rebecca stood up, faced her sister. You're right. You're absolutely right. I made the selfish choice. I chose the work over you because the work was easier to understand. The work had clear objectives and measurable outcomes. Family was messy and complicated, and I didn't know how to do both. So I chose wrong. And I'm sorry. I'm sorrier than I can put into words. Hannah wiped tears from her face. Sorry doesn't give me back 23 years. No, it doesn't. But it's all I have to offer. That and a promise that I won't disappear again. That whatever time we have left, I'll be here. Really here. No more missions, no more secrets, no more choosing anything over family. What about when the government calls, when they need you for another operation? I'm done. I've given them 23 years. They can find someone else. Hannah searched Rebecca's face, looking for the lie, the escape clause, the loophole that would let her disappear again. She didn't find one. I'm dating someone, Hannah said suddenly. Michael. He's a teacher at my school. We've been together for 2 years. He wants to get married. That's wonderful. Is it because I haven't said yes yet? Because part of me is still waiting for my dead sister to somehow come back and be at my wedding. Which is insane because dead people don't come to weddings. Except apparently my sister isn't dead. So now I have to figure out how to explain to him that the sister I've mourned for 23 years is actually alive and working for the government and probably has killed people. Rebecca sat back down. You don't have to explain me to anyone. You don't even have to tell people I'm back if you don't want to. This is your life, Hannah. I won't disrupt it more than I already have. Hannah sat down too, suddenly exhausted. I don't know what I want. I'm angry and I'm relieved and I'm confused and I'm... She looked at Rebecca. I missed you. God, I missed you so much. And I hate that I'm happy you're back because I should be angrier. I should make you suffer for what you put me through. You can be angry and relieved at the same time. Emotions aren't mutually exclusive. Is that something they teach you in spy school? It's something I learned watching you when we were kids. You'd be furious at mom and dad for some rule they made, but still hug them goodnight because you loved them more than you were angry. Rebecca reached across the table, took Hannah's hand. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I can't fix what I broke. But if you're willing to try, if you're willing to let me be part of your life again, I promise I'll do better. I'll be the sister you deserve to have all along. Hannah held her sister's hand for a long moment. Then she squeezed it. You start by meeting Michael tomorrow night. Dinner at that Italian place on 5th Avenue. And you're going to be normal. No spy stories, no tactical assessments of the restaurant's security, no analyzing him like he's a hostile asset. Just be my sister having dinner with my boyfriend. Can you do that? I can try. Trying is good enough. For now. Hannah stood up. It's late. You should go. But come back tomorrow, 6:30. Don't be late. Rebecca stood, moved toward the door. Hannah stopped her with a hug, sudden, fierce, desperate. Rebecca froze for a second, then hugged back, feeling her sister's tears soaking into her shoulder. Don't disappear, Hannah whispered. Please don't disappear again. I won't. I promise. I'm here. I'm staying. 2 weeks later, Rebecca stood in front of 40 SEAL candidates at the Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. They looked young, fit, confident the same way Jake Thornton had looked when she'd first seen him in that gym. Jake stood beside her, equally nervous, equally ready. The Master Chief who'd introduced them stepped back, left them to it. Rebecca looked at the candidates, saw the skepticism in their eyes. A 57-year-old woman and a former ranger who'd washed out of contractor work. Not exactly inspiring instructors. My name is Commander Rebecca Morrison, she said. Her voice carried across the training floor without shouting. 23 years naval intelligence, most of it classified, all of it operational. I'm here to teach you something the other instructors can't: how to survive when everything goes wrong, when you're outgunned and outnumbered and the mission is falling apart. One of the candidates raised his hand. Rebecca nodded at him. Ma'am, with respect, you're a woman in her 50s. What can you teach us about combat that we haven't already learned? Rebecca smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Parker Wright, 6'1", 215 pounds college wrestler, thinks he's hot shit because he maxed out the physical fitness test. Parker's face flushed. How did you? I read your file, just like I read all your files. Now come up here. Parker walked to the front. Confident, cocky. Attack me, Rebecca said. Full force, no holding back. Ma'am, I don't want to hurt. She was already moving. Parker hit the mat before he finished his sentence. Rebecca had him in an arm lock, 2 pounds of pressure from dislocation, her voice calm in his ear. Size doesn't matter. Strength doesn't matter. What matters is technique, experience, and the willingness to do what's necessary when it counts. She released him. Get up. Parker scrambled to his feet, shocked, embarrassed, suddenly aware he'd made a mistake. Rebecca addressed the entire class. Every single one of you came here thinking you're tough, thinking you've earned the right to wear the trident. But earning it in training and keeping it in the field are different things. I've served with SEALs who died because they were strong and brave and absolutely convinced they couldn't be beaten. I've also served with SEALs half their size who survived impossible situations because they fought smart instead of hard. She pulled out a photo, held it up. This was SEAL Team 7 Yemen operation 3 months ago. 12 men who would have walked into an ambush if someone hadn't stopped the intelligence leak that would have killed them. They don't know who saved them. They'll never know. But they're alive because someone did the unglamorous, invisible work of gathering intelligence and stopping bad people before those bad people could hurt good ones. Jake stepped forward. I used to think combat was about being the biggest, strongest, fastest person in the room. Then Commander Morrison dropped me in about 3 seconds and taught me that combat is about being the smartest person in the room. We're here to teach you that lesson before it gets you killed. For the next hour, they ran the candidates through scenarios. Urban combat, hostage rescue, ambush response. They taught them leverage points, pressure positions, how to use an opponent's strength against them. They taught them situational awareness, threat assessment, decision-making under stress. The candidates struggled, failed, got back up, tried again. By the end of the session, every single one of them was looking at Rebecca and Jake differently. Tomorrow we do this again, Rebecca said, and the day after. And every day until you understand that being a SEAL isn't about being tough. It's about being effective. Dismissed. The candidates filed out, whispering to each other, probably comparing bruises and wounded pride. Parker hung back. Ma'am, I'm sorry for what I said, about you being old. I am old, but old means experienced, and experience beats youth every single time when experience knows what it's doing. She almost smiled. You did good today. Took the fall, got back up, didn't make excuses. That's the first step to becoming someone worth following into combat. Thank you, ma'am. After he left, Jake turned to Rebecca. That was good. You were good. We were good. Past tense. Tomorrow we'll see if any of them actually learned anything. Her phone buzzed. Text from Hannah. Michael loved you. Dinner again next week. This time bring Jake. I want to meet the guy who convinced my sister to rejoin the human race. Rebecca showed Jake the message. He read it, raised an eyebrow. Your sister thinks I convinced you to rejoin the human race. You helped, along with 40 SEAL candidates who need to learn humility and a sister who's willing to forgive 23 years of lies. Rebecca pocketed her phone. Come on. Hannah wants us at her place in an hour. Apparently we're having family dinner. I'm not family. You helped me stop a traitor and survived a 72-hour chase across 3 continents. That makes you family, whether you like it or not. They walked across the base toward the parking lot, 2 people who'd started as strangers and become something neither of them had words for. Not quite friends, not quite partners, something forged in combat and trust and shared trauma. Behind them, SEAL candidates were already talking about the crazy old lady who dropped their biggest guy like he weighed nothing. The stories would grow, become legends, be passed down to new classes. Commander Morrison, the ghost instructor who'd done things nobody talked about but everyone respected. Rebecca didn't care about the stories. She cared about the teaching, about passing on lessons learned in blood and fire to kids who might need them someday. And she cared about the dinner waiting at Hannah's apartment, about meeting Michael and pretending to be normal, about rebuilding something she'd thought was lost forever. 6 months later, Rebecca stood in the back of a church in San Diego, watching her sister marry a good man who taught history and loved her enough to accept that her family was complicated. Hannah wore white, radiant, happy, in a way Rebecca remembered from childhood. Michael stood at the altar, nervous and sincere, and exactly the kind of man Hannah deserved. Jake sat beside Rebecca in the pew, wearing a suit that looked uncomfortable but appropriate. They'd spent 6 months teaching SEAL candidates, and Jake had become one of the most respected instructors at Coronado. The candidates called him the professor because he could explain complex tactical concepts in ways that made sense. They called Rebecca the ghost. She'd earned it. The ceremony was simple, beautiful, everything a wedding should be. When the pastor asked if anyone objected, Rebecca held her breath, half expecting some enemy from her past to burst through the doors. Nobody did. The church stayed peaceful. The wedding continued. Hannah and Michael exchanged vows. Rebecca cried, which surprised her. Jake handed her a tissue, which surprised her more. At the reception, Hannah pulled Rebecca aside. "Thank you for being here. I wouldn't be anywhere else. I mean it. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for staying. Thank you for being my sister again." Hannah hugged her. "I know it wasn't easy giving up the life you had, but I'm grateful you did. Turns out the life I had wasn't much of a life. This is better. Even teaching arrogant SEAL candidates, especially teaching arrogant SEAL candidates, someone has to keep them humble." Hannah laughed, pulled back, looked at her sister. "You're happy. I can see it. You're actually happy." Rebecca thought about that. Thought about the apartment she'd rented 3 blocks from Hannah's place. Thought about Sunday dinners and phone calls and having someone who cared whether she came home at night. Thought about the candidates she was training about passing on knowledge that might save their lives someday. "Yeah," she said. "I think I am." The reception lasted until midnight. Rebecca and Jake were among the last to leave, helping clean up, saying goodbye to Hannah and Michael as they left for their honeymoon. In the parking lot, Jake turned to Rebecca. "You going to be okay?" "Why wouldn't I be?" "Because for 23 years you didn't have anyone. And now you have your sister back and she's starting a new life with someone else, and you're standing here wondering where you fit in all of it." Rebecca stared at him. "When did you become a psychologist?" "About the same time you became a teacher. We're both learning new skills." He unlocked his car. "For what it's worth, I think you fit just fine. Hannah's not going anywhere. Neither is Michael. Neither am I. You have people now. Get used to it." He drove away, leaving Rebecca standing in the parking lot thinking about people and fitting in and the strange reality of having a life that didn't require her to be someone else. Her phone buzzed. Admiral Chen. "I'm at a wedding reception. This better be important." "Just checking in, making sure you're settling into civilian life. I teach SEAL candidates hand-to-hand combat. That's not exactly civilian." "Close enough." Chen paused. "I'm retiring. Next month. 35 years in the Navy, and I'm finally hanging it up." "What will you do?" "Travel, read, spend time with my husband before we're too old to enjoy it. All the things I didn't do while I was busy running operations and managing operators like you." Another pause. "You did good work, Rebecca. Better than most. You earned your peace. I hope you're enjoying it." "I'm working on it. That's all anyone can do. Work on it until it becomes real." Chen's voice softened. "Take care of yourself, Commander. And take care of those kids you're training. They need you more than they know." The call ended. Rebecca stood in the empty parking lot alone but not lonely, thinking about peace and what it meant after 2 decades of war. She drove home to her apartment, the one with actual furniture and photos on the walls, and a refrigerator stocked with food because she lived there instead of just using it as a staging area. Tomorrow she'd teach another class of SEAL candidates. Tomorrow she'd have dinner with Hannah and Michael. Tomorrow she'd do normal things that still felt strange, but were slowly becoming familiar. Tonight she stood on her balcony looking out at San Diego, at the city she was learning to call home. Her phone buzzed one more time. Text from an unknown number. "The world needs ghosts. We'll call when we need you. V." Rebecca stared at the message for 10 seconds. Then she deleted it, blocked the number, and threw the phone inside. Vance could rot in his cell, sending messages to a ghost who didn't exist anymore. Rebecca Morrison was done being dead. Done being invisible. Done sacrificing everything for missions that never ended. She was building something new now. Something real. Something that looked a lot like the life she'd walked away from 23 years ago. And she was never letting it go again. The ghost had become human. The warrior had become a teacher. The agent had become a sister. And that finally, after 23 years of running, was enough.